hello everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host as always, Richard Tiemann, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. That's right, everyone's a fan of something, and we have got something for every fan, including if you're a fan of cat toys, because yes, this is the perfect time for you to play with your cat toys right now. Anyway, it is what it is. It makes perfect sense that yesterday I would make a post about how excited I am to have the Shock back, because it means that I get to see all my friends from around the league on a semi-regular basis. I don't have to go to all of them. They can come to me now. I'll still probably try to go to all of them as much as I can, but I want to be able to have a team fly in and meet up with the head coach and a couple of players and be like, hey, come by the studio. Let's do a show. You know, invite them into a nice, comfy, cozy studio, absent of all cat toy noises. So we'll see. Wishful thinking. But it is Tuesday. It is September the 24th. And the IFL League meetings have begun. So without further ado or any more delay, let's get to today's headlines. Headlines, of course, are brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises, where they want to customize your world, and you can get pretty much anything you want customized by them. If you want stickers, shout out to the North Idaho chapter, the 49er Faithful. That was a great get-together that we had. Other stickers, like your favorite fan show and your fan show gauntlet, the Infinity Gauntlet right there. Stickers, business cards, tablecloths, table runners. You can do t-shirts, you can do hats, you can do koozies, you can do coasters. I mean, really, every day they're coming out with something new that they can slap that logo or artwork on. So I encourage you, if you need something for promotional, marketing, advertising, or other, go visit dynamiteenterprises.com. And if you know what you want, or if you want something and you don't see it on the website, then visit Ethan. Give them a shout, Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com. They'll give you a quote, they'll give you a product, and then if you don't like it, they'll do everything they can to make sure that you are taken care of and that you are at least 99.9% satisfied with their customer service, if nothing else, because there's been a few things that I've gotten from them. Now, they didn't physically have a hand in making it. They had to go through a third party, and it was not what I was expecting. I said, hey, this is damaged, blah, blah, blah. I got not one, but two new backdrops, and then I still have the third one, which is tore and scuffed up. So they'll take care of you. So Dynamite Enterprises. And as we begin today's episode, of course, we would like to propose a question of the day while I go through the headlines, and that is, drum roll please, question of the day: who has most likely played their last snap with their current team? Your options are A, Big Ben, B, Eli Manning, or C, Cam, as in Cam Newton. There is no D, all of the above. You must pick one, Jeffrey. Looking at you out there. So let's go ahead and go through the headlines. I see we have several people that have joined us, including Casey Keller, the voice, well, PA voice for the Quad City Steamwheelers Fan Show Best PA in the Business 2019. Great guy. My lovely wife, D'Anja, has joined us from work. She should be working, but she's probably on a break. I see Ryan. I see Devin. I see Blake. I see another Ryan. I see Jason. So good to see all you guys. I see Barry. Barry is here. It looks like we've got a lot of votes already. So, headlines. As I mentioned, the IFL League meetings have begun. And there's already like huge news happening, and I wish I could share it with you guys. I really, really do. But when I went to ask if I could, they basically said, no, you keep that hush, shh, lock it down. You need to lock it the F down. So I'm sorry, guys. It is really big news, but I can't share it just yet. And look, a lot of people ask, like, hey, did you see this other page? It said that there's this one thing going on. When it comes to me and my journalistic integrity, or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, that I apparently have, or people seem to think that I possess, or whatever the fan show is about, I've never been about being first. I want to be accurate. So when it comes to breaking news or leaks, I'm not just going to charge out there blindly like, some crazed, drunken Scottish warrior and just yell freedom and post all this and get like maybe half of it right. I might not be first. I might not even be second or third to post something, but when I do, it will be accurate. That's the thing that you can trust with the fan show, is that I'm not always going to be first, but I will at least be accurate. So the IFL League meetings are happening. There is big news on the way that I wish I could tell you, but I can't, out of respect for the league and its powers that be. But just know, as fans, because this is the fan show, from me, a fan, this is in your best interest. The news that's happening right now. I see great things happening for the league, and I think the best years are yet to come. I'm very, very excited about the things happening at the league meetings right now. So things that I can talk about, though, is that there's this merger that's apparently happening with the CIF NAL. Here's what I know. And I don't know a lot because I choose not to deal with the CIF. A lot of you know that. I just prefer, why bother? And the NAL is kind of 50-50. But what I know is what people have told me. Multiple people, not just one, not two, but like multiple people. This is what I know as far as this situation. The CIF and the NAL have talked extensively about basically the CIF absorbing, yes, I almost said absorbing the NAL's remaining teams, because there's been no official word if Orlando or New York are coming back. Why would you want them back? New York was a crap show, and Orlando, God, you wanted them to be successful, you really did, and then they were not. So the CIF is going to absorb the remaining NAL teams, and they will play under the CIF brand. It will be, I think, kind of a version of the NAL rules, as far as they're going to have the deuce and then a lot of the fundamentals of football. And then it will have two conferences, and the teams will play within their conference throughout a majority of a 12-game season. But they will have two interconference games, one home, one away. So that kind of answers the whole travel question. What I also know is that this is the exact thing that I heard was supposed to be happening with the IFL and the NAL before those talks fell through. In fact, what I remember hearing from a couple of people was that the IFL was going to get, I think, Carolina, Jacksonville, and Orlando. Or was it New York? It was not Mass. I believe Massachusetts has asked for their release from the NAL, but I cannot confirm that. That's just what I've heard. Okay? And it was going to be under the IFL brand. Why wouldn't it? And it was going to be IFL rules, but they were going to add in the deuce. They were going to have two conferences, and they were going to have two interconference games for each team, one home and one away. So it's just very interesting that this is happening now with the CIF and the NAL. Now, to me, as a person that's covered these leagues before and everything, it just, I don't know about the move. It seems kind of desperate, but that's just from outside looking in as far as everything that's happened in the last couple of off seasons. There's a lot of teams jumping ship from the CIF to the IFL. Not a good look for the CIF. And then there's a lot of teams that have sort of, instability at the ownership position, which is a very important position in the NAL. So, good for them, I guess, but it's a tough pill to swallow because I don't know what this does really for both of them, other than, instead of one or the other folding, now they just combine their forces and you have a league. But I guess they're working on a deal with Amazon. That's another rumor, that the CIF and NAL, the new league, is working on a deal with Amazon and their to-be-launched sports division. That was another thing that I heard whispers of, I guess. Sometimes I feel like Lord Varys with, I have my whispers. My birds, they whisper all over the place. So, anyway, that's what I know about that to answer your guys' questions, because I've gotten a bunch of inbox inquiries and messages as far as what do I know, what do I not know. With the CIF and the NAL merger, that is what I do or do not know. So, that covers the IFL news. League meetings happening now. Spokane Shock official announcement should be October 1st, which is a Tuesday. What I heard is it's going to be a big deal, most likely open to the public. And then there should be another announcement or two to come from the league meetings. I don't know if it will be before or after the Spokane announcement, because it seems like they're kind of treating Spokane special. And Spokane should be announcing their head coach at that same announcement, which, as far as I've heard, that deal is done. And then Iowa, obviously still in the market for a head coach. Last I heard, they were in talks with Marcus Coleman. So there is what I've heard. That's what Fan Show knows. And, questions, comments, concerns, answers. Barry says, I just hope that in the IFL, they don't play the same team 3 times. They won't. If you're looking at 14 or 16 teams in a league, I do not believe that they will be playing the same team that many times. I think the whole point of the expansion, the way that they're doing it, is to break that up. I think it's still going to be 16-game seasons, so the CIF NAL taking a bit of a different approach if their 12-game season turns out to be accurate. But anyway, that announcement, like the official merger or the absorbing of the remaining NAL teams, supposed to happen Thursday, and then the Amazon announcement supposed to come, I guess, a week later, whenever it's finally done. But that's some of the stuff that you guys have probably been seeing posts of and hearing some rumors about. This Amazon deal is very interesting. I guess they're going to handle all the production. I don't know why Amazon would invest in this. I don't know why, but that was something that I had heard a rumor of that's supposed to just change the game. Believe it when I see it. So let's go ahead and check in with our question of the day before we get to the NAL or the NFL portion of our show today. No special guests. We're just going to recap. We're going to chit-chat a little bit. So the comments are open. I see you guys are there. So far, we have a lot of B's. Eli, I see Barry says B. Danja says B. Kelly says B. And then let's see here. Anybody else? Look, I don't think it's Eli. I do not think Eli has played his last snap as a New York Giant. And here's why. Because Eli was benched. Big Ben and Cam Newton are hurt. So, in my mind, Big Ben, I think it's A, for anybody curious. I think the answer to this question is A. We have seen Big Ben take his last snap as a Pittsburgh Steeler. The reason I think Big Ben is because he's hurt, and not just hurt, like he's having surgery. And Rudolph, even though the Steelers are the only one of those 3 teams that did not win with their backup quarterback or with their younger quarterback or whatever you want to call him, it still seems like we've been wondering when Big Ben's last year as a Steeler, or last year of his career was going to be for like the last 3 or 4 seasons. And yes, he can come back from, an elbow or forearm surgery, but I don't think the Steelers are going to invest too much more of their future in having him be their guy, especially if Mason Rudolph continues to develop and play well. It was sloppy football against the 49ers, both teams, okay, I will fully admit. But I do not think Eli has played his last game because with the Cam Newton situation, if I'm a team that needs a quarterback, even a good backup, Cam has more trade value than Eli. So I think that because Daniel Jones is a young quarterback looking to make a name for himself, in a big market like New York, I could see him taking an unnecessary risk like what we saw with Jimmy G last year, get sidelined, re-enter Eli, he comes in to save the day. So I think Eli is actually probably going to play another snap or two as a New York Giant. It's Big Ben and then Cam that have probably played their last days as a Pittsburgh Steeler and a Carolina Panther. And I guess the people in Carolina couldn't be happier that Cam's hurt, which is just odd to me. But hey, I guess when you're over your guy, you're over your guy, right? Antonio has joined us. John asks, where is Billy Bat going? I'm not at liberty to say. I do know where he's going, but I cannot say. At least not yet. Barry says, John, good chance he's going to shock the world. There's a very good chance he could shock the world. Antonio says, late to the party, Big Ben is done. So Antonio agrees with me. Casey says, that was my original answer, but I changed my mind. And that's fine. Look, I could be completely wrong about this, but I'm looking at 3 teams with 2 of them have a similar situation and 1 has an outlier. But each team is different from the next, right? So the Steelers lost with their next man up. But it's Big Ben that is hurt, and he's out for the rest of the season. You have the Giants, who benched Eli in favor of their new young gunslinger, their first-round pick, probably what they hope is the future of their franchise, and they won. And then you had Cam Newton, who is out indefinitely with a foot injury, and then his backup went out there and they got the win also. So I think Big Ben has probably played his last game as a Steeler, which is crazy, especially after that loss to the 49ers, which brings me to my next point. The 49ers did, in fact, win. Brian Schmidt, what's up, Big Schmidt? He says, won't be Ben. His surgery was less extensive than they thought. So unless Mason blows it out of the water, he will be back next year. That was news out of Pittsburgh. So, Brian, I'll ask you this then. How many more seasons does Big Ben have? Because I don't recall this being one that you just come back from. A lot of the news right now out of New Orleans is that Drew Brees, even though he's only out for 6 to 8 weeks, his thumb, the tendon that he tore that he's having surgically repaired, that's a big deal because it's his throwing hand and it's his thumb, and it might not be something that he can just come back from. So we'll see. So I'll ask Brian that, see how many years he thinks Big Ben has in Pittsburgh. But look, what if he doesn't blow it out of the water? What if he goes, like he's serviceable? Do you think that they would invest in Mason and then say, thank you for the memories, Big Ben? I'm curious about his thoughts on that as well. Keith Witt has joined us. Hey, Keith, good to see you as well. John says, AZ went from no competition to a loaded conference. Yes, yes, they did. So 49ers over the Steelers, 24-20. We can just forget that first half because that was some of the sloppiest, nastiest football I've seen, and not in the good way. That's why I said sloppy nasty and not nasty physical, because it was sloppy. 49ers improved to 3-0, which is what our episode's called today, episode 432, 3-0. My, they're going into a bye week undefeated. Jaguars over the Titans. I did not see that one coming, but apparently Gardner Minshew is just blowing up the internet right now, and I love it. I really do. 20-7 was your final out of Jacksonville. Then we had the Lions over the Eagles, 27-24. Luke, if you're watching, if you're listening, I keep picking your Eagles and they keep letting me down. I don't know what to do anymore with these Philadelphia Eagles. And the Lions are 2-0-1. They don't count as undefeated. I don't care if they haven't lost. They didn't win that game either. So, to each their own. Patriots over the Jets, color me shocked. That was my pick for my survivor pool because I got lazy and forgot. And so I went and I was like, oh, Patriots, haven't picked them yet. So they won 30-14. Raiders and Vikings. Vikings get another win, and that was 34-14. They improved to 2-1. And the big game, the Ravens and the Chiefs, 33-28. Oh, my goodness. This was one of those offensively heavy games that I'm not a huge fan of. Chiefs get the victory. They move on to 3-0. Ravens get their first loss, but it was a road loss to a top-ranked team, so not much to really hang your head about. Falcons and the Colts. I picked the Falcons in this, I think, but Jacoby Brissett continues to raise eyebrows. And a lot of people are attributing his success to the fact that they wanted an offensive line that could protect Luck because he had been gone for so long due to injury. He suffered in the pocket because of all the hits he was taking. So, the irony. I don't know if he's really that good or if they just decided that they were going to put their money where it needed to be, and that was up front. So Colts 2-1, 27-24 is your final, and then the Broncos fall to the Packers in Lambeau. Packers advance to 3-0. 27-16 was your final. I did 8-8 for Pick'em, and then I was 2-2 for my fantasy leagues. One league I was in just as a late entry just because they needed a guy, and I lost that one. In another league I didn't even know I drafted for. It was like an NFL.com automated league, but I won in that one, and I haven't touched the lineup there, so I must be doing something right. But my whole weekend was 50-50, so you might as well have called me Jeff Fisher. But I picked the Broncos over the Packers just because I thought it would have been funny if the Packers had narrowly escaped these first two games against division rivals, and then they lose at home to the Broncos, who were 0-2 coming in there. Didn't think it was very likely, but I took a shot. I did. Dolphins, they lost to the Cowboys. Cowboys are 3-0, but against who? The Dolphins. What is happening in Miami? The Bills are 3-0. I feel like that needs to just sort of marinate with everybody. The Buffalo Bills are 3-0. Let that sink in. They beat the Bengals 21-17. Bengals fall to 0-3. Buccaneers and the Giants, this was a shootout, but it was Daniel Jones to the rescue. The young first-round quarterback who looks like a younger Eli Manning led the Giants. The late comeback, 32-31, your final in Tampa. Panthers-Cardinals. Panthers mount unlikely comeback with their backup quarterback. 38-20 is your final. Cardinals fall to 0-2-1. And then we have the Saints upsetting the Seahawks in Seattle while it was raining. I don't understand what happened here with a backup quarterback. He is Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, but I did not see that one coming. Saints defense looked like Seattle's defense in Seattle out there. It was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. So Seattle falls to 2-1. New Orleans advances to 2-1. Texans, Chargers. I had picked the Chargers in this one, but they fall to Houston at home. That's right. Chargers were in L.A. 27-20. Texans 2-1. And then finally Sunday night, we had the Rams and the Browns. Rams beat the Browns in Cleveland. First time Cleveland has hosted Sunday Night Football in 11 years. Shouldn't have had to wait that long. Final score 20-13. And then Monday night, the Bears thump the Redskins. Redskins just look ugly. It's so ugly. 31-15. Those are your final scores from around the NFL. So I guess we can also ask which is the most surprising to you guys right now as far as where we're at in week 3. If there's a team, a player that surprised you, good or bad, as far as they're an 0-3 team that surprised you or a 3-0 team that surprises you. And I think we can go ahead and leave this graphic up now. Shows you the remaining undefeated teams, which I will say except for the Lions. And of all of those, I got to say that I'm still not sold on the Packers. I know their defense is doing great, but they've won games that they should have done a lot better with a guy like Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. So I don't know if it's just not being familiar with your new head coach or your personnel or the play calling or what, but man, that was some surprising stuff. Brian says, let's see. Oh, Barry says go Mahomes. Antonio says calm down, Barry. Brian says Ben didn't have to have Tommy John, so they are still looking at him for 2 or 3 years for Big Ben. Wow. 2 or 3 years. That's crazy. Huh. Okay. So, Brian and I obviously on different pages here. I think Big Ben has played his last down as a Pittsburgh Steeler. I don't think he's played his last down ever. I just could see them trying to move on because they've had to move on from Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. Big Ben just seems like the next domino to fall before they're at that phase like the Rams were before Sean McVay came into the picture. Tomlinson is going to be a head coach really anywhere. He's got a fantastic resume, just like I'm surprised Mike McCarthy doesn't have a gig yet. He's got a great resume, but Green Bay ran him out of town. Crazy stuff. But I don't know who honestly would take over for Tomlin if they, and does he get a pass because Big Ben is having surgery or he's sidelined for the foreseeable future? Does Tomlin live to see another day, another season, I guess, as the Steelers head coach? Because they kind of wanted him out there for a while there. But yes, in case you missed it, I doubt you did, the Antonio Brown saga, at least in New England, and looks like the NFL has finally come to a conclusion. And that was when Patriots released him, said that it was just better off this way, and then he said he will not be playing in the NFL, that there's too much stuff going on. I don't know, stuff like maybe you should show up to practice when you're contractually obligated to, like stuff like that, maybe? I don't know. It's funny to hear the two different sides of a story and how one side just seems really, and the other side's like, yeah, that makes sense. But that one side, that's what I feel Antonio Brown is right now. He's the, Antonio says, don't forget that Big D is 3-0. I haven't. The internet and Fox Sports social media will not allow me to forget that Dallas is undefeated. Antonio. Let's see here. Chris has joined. Andrew's joined. James has joined. Good to see you guys. Thank you all. Antonio says, J-Hulk says the Bills are 3-0 because of Beasley. That could very well be. I think Cooper Kupp is going to be better than Beasley and Edelman. You can quote me on that. Cooper Kupp, man, he is something special. And he came from Eastern. Came from EWU, the Eagles, just like Kendrick Bourne did, plays for the Niners. John says, as a Rams fan, I was surprised that they made it 3-0. Is that because of your schedule or because you thought they were going to have a Super Bowl hangover? Which I thought the Super Bowl hangover was only for the winner of the Super Bowl, but apparently I was misinformed on that. So, John, let me know if you think it's because of their schedule or that Super Bowl hangover that all the cool kids talk about these days. John also says, Carolina versus the Saints. Cleveland is a tough stretch. And then that at Carolina, and then versus the Saints and at Cleveland is a tough stretch. Brian says, that's the word from Pittsburgh and him. Okay, so obviously Big Ben feeling very confident. He's not Tom Brady, though. That's the thing, is that there was something over the weekend. I was listening to the radio on ESPN or one of those stations, and they were talking about how, Tom Brady doesn't look like a 42-year-old man playing the position of quarterback. But yet there was somebody saying that Breeze and Rivers were like right there, and they're starting to show signs of like wear and tear, like that age would, and same with Big Ben. So Brady should not be the bar. He should not be what we expect from our athletes, especially our quarterbacks. He's very much an anomaly, an exception, needs to be considered as such. Because it's just, he has defied all odds, physically, mentally, emotionally, what have you. What he's been able to do as a 42-year-old man playing quarterback in the NFL, granted, it is one of the most protected positions now, probably because of him and that long stretch of time. But still, to play professional football at the age of 42, you usually only see that in semi-pro leagues. Seriously. Barry says McCarthy to the Barnstormers. That would be the day, wouldn't it? Let's see. Brian says, if the season goes as it is, Tomlin won't make it. So you don't think he gets a free pass just because Big Ben is sidelined. That's interesting. So Big Ben, more than likely, or I guess more likely, to return than Tomlin. Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. This has been good conversation, guys. So we have the remaining undefeated teams. 49ers going into a bye, so obviously they can't be the next to lose. But of those teams, and of course we'll have a full Week 4 preview for you guys on Thursday's episode, maybe even a special guest, trying to get 49ers VP Robert Alberino back on the show because I tweeted at him saying, hey, if they go 3-0, I want you back on the show. I want to celebrate going into the bye week, being undefeated, because a lot of people counted the 49ers out. But the Bills, the 49ers, And the Packers did not make the playoffs last year. Patriots won the Super Bowl. I ask you this, sports fans. Everybody talked about how we overreacted and were too quick to pronounce them deceased whenever the Patriots lost week 2, 3, or 4. That's usually their window of when they lose a game that they should most definitely not lose, like to Miami on the road. But is them being undefeated, like if they go 4-0 after this weekend, is it kind of like a reverse thing, like a reverse jinx, a reverse curse, where they do so good at the beginning of the season and nobody throws up any red flags about them, and then they somehow like sputter and stumble into the postseason, and then they don't make it to the Super Bowl? I could see that happening. I won't be so bold as to predict that, but I just think it's funny that every year they lose week 2, 3, or 4, and it's to a team that they should definitely beat. And we all go, oh, it's over, the dynasty's done, and then it's not. But what if they go on this really long run? Like they go 8-9-0, and nobody is questioning whether or not they're done. And then they hit bad luck at the worst possible time. I could see it happening. James White says the Bills will lose next. Barry says the Lions will lose next. I don't know. I don't have those games in front of me. Let's check. Let's see. We're going to talk about this right now. Week number 4 in the NFL. So the Eagles are at the Packers. I don't see the Packers losing at home unless the Eagles pull out some kind of miracle. And I've picked the Eagles to win games that they should have won. Could the Eagles be one of those teams where they lose the games they should win and then they win the games that they should most definitely not win? I could see the Eagles being that team. Other than that, we have the Chiefs and the Lions. Okay, so yeah, the Lions more than likely will be the next to lose. And then the Bills and the Patriots. The Bills, obviously, most likely next to lose as well. The Rams are hosting the Buccaneers. And then the Cowboys are on the road against the Saints. We could be seeing a lot of undefeated teams no longer undefeated after week 4. Obviously, you have to have a winner. I guess you don't. You can have a tie between the Chiefs and the Lions, and of course the Bills and the Patriots. But I think if you had to just pick one team to lose for sure this next weekend, it would either be the Lions or the Bills. But the Cowboys against the Saints, that's a very intriguing matchup. Very, very intriguing. I think of all the games happening next week, which again, we will preview on Thursday a little bit more in depth, but that Cowboys-Saints game is probably going to be the best test for the Cowboys early in the season, because Bridgewater and the Saints just went up and smacked the Seahawks around in Seattle. Doesn't happen a lot, especially when you're a backup quarterback. And I know we all love Teddy Two Gloves. We do. But he's still technically a backup quarterback. But they went in and they got it done with their defense. And that just doesn't happen to Seattle. In Seattle, it just doesn't. So this will be a big test for the Cowboys. And then I'm not going to say it's a big test for the Chiefs against the Lions. It's just not. And the Patriots and Bills, if you want to chalk it up that it's a big test for both teams, go right ahead. But it's not. It's not. The Bills could win this game because the Bills have beat the Patriots before in very unlikely scenarios. Granted, there was a lot that had to go the Bills' way, but they still managed to do it. In fact, when Rex Ryan was coaching the Bills, they managed to beat the Patriots, and that was one of the craziest things I'd ever seen. So that Cowboys-Saints game, that's going to tell us a lot about both teams. I think if the Saints can get a win at home against an undefeated Cowboys, it shows us that they're true contenders and that they maybe need Breeze. And maybe next week's question is Breeze' career done? Or will he have to finish out somewhere other than New Orleans? God, that's crazy talk, isn't it? And then, of course, if the Cowboys win, then they're not just pretenders at 4-0. They actually can be a legitimate team. Not that 2-1 is like all that legitimate. We're week 3, so we got to be one side or the other, either more in the win column or more in the lose column at this point. And let's see what else we've got here. Barry says KC versus Detroit. And then James says the Rams. Ty has joined us. I see Dustin's joined us. Antonio says Saints will win. Hate to say it. Oh man, you are so quick to abandon your team, Antonio. I swear, nobody jumps off their team's ship before it even starts to sink than Cowboys fans do. And that's why I love IFL season so much, because that's when we all get along. Right now, it's just funny to sort of pick on each other. It is. But I love you, Antonio. I really do. I think it's a lot of fun to have this kind of bickering back and forth. So Antonio, a Cowboys fan, thinks that they will lose to the Saints in New Orleans. It is a road game. It is going to be a tough environment. It will be loud, especially coming off the win that they had on the road in Seattle. That's definitely going to be a game that the fans want to welcome them back from. But the Chiefs, the Rams, the Niners, Packers, Bills, Cowboys, and Patriots. I don't think I'm going to go ahead and say that probably two of these teams that are undefeated right now will not make the playoffs. I know that they've got an all likely, but I think that there's a couple of 0-3 teams that have more likelihood of making the playoffs than a couple of these 3-0 teams. I really do. I really, really do. So that should be a lot of fun to see how this all plays out in the next couple of weeks. Thursday will be our big preview day. So once again, let's go ahead and run it down as we approach the 40-minute mark of today's episode. Again, episode 432. It is September the 24th. We are live from Fan Cave Studio. I appreciate all of you joining me. Antonio says he's not abandoning, been a lifelong fan. They will get caught sleeping. Fair enough. Okay, I digress. We talked about the IFL and how the meetings are going on right now. So make sure that you stay tuned to the Fan Show. Either follow us on Facebook, which you're watching live right now. And if you're not, if you're listening on Spreaker.com, then don't forget it is Facebook.com/FanShowOfficial, as the little scroll bar at the bottom of the Facebook live feed says right now. Instagram, The Fan Show. We just hit 700 followers. So that's clearly the one social media platform that we need to work on the most. So if you have an Instagram and you're not following The Fan Show, please do so and tell your friends to do so. We do the photo and video stuff. We're not Instagram models, but I haven't put it past myself that if I need to get likes and follows that I could do it. I could pull it off. Some scantily clad pose with an inspirational quote that has nothing to do with the pose whatsoever. I could do it. I could. Twitter, we're very active on Twitter, @FanShowOfficial, and it is the season finale of BattleBots this Friday. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video content available on the YouTube channel as well as the Facebook page. BattleBots has been so kind as to put a Fan Show content from the Pit playlist up on their website, as well as share the videos on their social media platforms as well. Love having that friendship with them. It's always good for some follows, some likes. So we are onward and upward to infinity and beyond. IFL meetings, Spokane shock announcement, Spokane head coach announcement. Big news coming out of the meetings, not related to either of those. CIF NAL not so merger. Amazon to be launched sports division deal that the CIF is currently working on for their production and I guess streaming purposes. And Billy Beck has resigned from the Carolina Cobras. We'll see where he lands. Curious. And Iowa, we'll see who they tap for the next head coach of the Barnstormers. That should be very, very good. Let's see. Brian says, please no, just no. I didn't say I would do it. I said I could do it. But I haven't gotten to that point of desperation. James says, not a vision that we needed. You know, I leave everything up to your own imaginations, and it's up to you if you imagine that. I don't force it on you, okay? I just paint the picture. It's your, if you want to look, you can. Not forcing you. All right. It's been a lot of fun on this Tuesday edition of The Fan Show. I think you guys are awesome. And don't forget, like, follow, love, listen, share all the Fan Show content. Can't do it without you guys, the good people of Fan Nation. We will be back Thursday with an all-new episode to preview the upcoming Week 4 in the NFL. This has been a lot of fun. And remember, of course, as I mentioned earlier, I don't care about being first with the news. I just care about being accurate with it. But still, at the end of the day, it's not official unless it's Fan Show official, and we are officially out of here. So, until next time, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks!
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.